VJ Edgecombe is one of the class's most exciting prospects and someone that has a legitimate chance to contend for one of the top picks in the 2025 draft. He spent this summer as a standout contributor on the Bahamas national team that made it to the final of the Olympic qualifiers alongside guys like Buddy Hield, DeAndre Ayton, and others, and that only added to what has been a meteoric rise for him over the last several years. That journey started when he moved to the US at 14, where he spent a couple years in Florida before heading to New York and Long Island Lutheran, where he became the Player of the Year in the NIBC as a junior, and he rose 150 spots on 24/7 Sports rankings in the spring and summer of 2023, garnering interest and offers from nearly everywhere, but ultimately landing at Baylor. An explosive off guard at 6'4", 6'5", VJ has the potential to be a threat on both ends of the floor and has the type of motor that always seems to find success in some form or fashion. He should be one of the best freshmen in the country, so let's get into what all he brings to the table and what has made him so highly regarded. Now, VJ's defense should be a defining piece of his game, and heading into a program that has built itself in part through excellence on this end of the floor, there's a good chance this is what everyone is drawn to first as he steps out there. On the ball, he moves well laterally, he's got good anticipation, he can absorb contact and beat guys to spots, and most importantly, he's shown a level of tenacity and effort that's necessary to succeed here. We've seen him completely disrupt guys on the perimeter, giving him nowhere to go at times, and he's physical enough that I think he'll be able to defend bigger wings, though we'll see just how much of that he can do at the college level. I also still want to see all the pieces put together. I think proving that he can be a true point of attack guy and someone that navigates screens and recovers at a high level is fairly important to maximize his value, so things like that, staying out of foul trouble, keeping his hands off, will be watched closely, but for the most part, I've been impressed by his upside in those areas, and moments like these are a great look at that.
And introducing full court press here.
Both teams going to probably press early. Edgecombe almost picks his pocket. Elijah Elliott.
And then as more of a team guy, he's been a disruptor in passing lanes, showing off his great instincts and knowledge of his responsibilities. He's got great hands and has been an impressive force as a help side shot blocker and contester at the rim, at least for two guard standards. And in those scramble situations that Baylor has relied upon within their no middle scheme, he also has the ability to cover ground quickly and anticipate developing plays and help, so he should fit pretty well within that.
Looking for flag, that was intercepted.
Mansur Bahami trča nevjerojatno brzo.
It's stuck in my teeth sometimes. Oh, nice. Now a steal by Edgecombe. The future Baylor Bear with two hands. Committed, linked in Missouri. Movement inside by
interception. Captain Jack, as he's known, ahead to Isaiah Evans, future rival.
early on.
James looking like he was shot out of a rocket on that possession. Here's Queen against Maluk, barreling into him, blocked from behind by Edgecombe.
Staying in front of one of the faster guards in the country. Steve Michael told me now he could be a switch.
Now, the motor that he plays with is another big part of his defense, but really just his makeup overall as a player. I think that's a big part of what has separated him to this point, and it's honestly the only way that you can make it from being a guy who I believe didn't play varsity until he was a junior to becoming a top 5 ranked recruit in the country. That just doesn't happen, and especially not for someone who didn't have this like crazy growth spurt in that time span. Now, this play right here is easily one of my favorite plays from him, and I think just shows a lot of who he is. The way he hawks this down and gets a chance at changing or blocking the shot is ridiculous, and even though it ended up being called a goaltend, the list of his peers that could have made that play is small, and the list of those who would even tried is even smaller. Now, as you can probably tell just through looking at his defense and what we've shown already, he's an elite athlete, he's explosive, he's graceful, and in those situations where he needs to get up the floor quickly, he can do it with the best of them, and he's a highlight waiting to happen whether he's got a runway or he's in traffic. He's been a force in transition, primarily running lanes on the wing, but he can take it to the rack himself off a steal or a rebound, and I think he'll continue to turn defense into easy offense and find quick opportunities on the break, and that was of course his most common and effective play type in the high school and grassroots levels. And to add to that, I would honestly be shocked if he doesn't have a decent list of posters and highlights this year. He's really just that good in multiple ways, and I'll pause some of these plays just so you can see where he's at in the air because it's pretty special.
.40 seconds to play. Oh,
Oh, my.
Slow down and execute. A lot of one-on-one.
Another steal here. BJ.
Chukwudi Belu in there.
Now getting into more of who he currently is as an offensive player, he's primarily been an off-ball scoring threat and one who has the type of potential that would make him a good fit in most places. I actually want to start with his three-point shot, not because it's his best strength in the half court or as a scorer, but it makes things a little easier to talk about all at once. He's an already capable shooter from deep and was actually much better off the catch than I would have guessed just from watching for whatever reason. And that's been the case for most of the last 2 years. He was at about 40% on 119 total attempts last year at Lehigh, and his junior year he shot it even better percentage-wise and also shot it pretty well playing with Austin Rivers last summer. Now with that being said, there is still plenty of convincing for him to do. I think his shot prep and footwork can be a lot better. He's also a bit rigid up top mechanically. That was present in person at Formula 0, though it's not a big issue. And then there's question in the type of volume he'll shoot from deeper range in college. But if we want to compare here, he's actually more proven and capable as a spot-up guy than anyone you'll find in the top 5 or 6 of most mocks, and looks on track to at worst be a threat from here, which is enough for someone who has his other gifts.
In the paint as well, using his height. Edgecombe, deep three, oh my!
He's also grown into being a pretty good driver and attacker, often using his tools to blow past defenders and turn the corner. It's still been primarily in straight lines and off of closeouts to this point, but he's effective getting paint touches, whether it's out of the triple threat or using one move like a push cross or a hesitation, and he's done it fairly well. It's just about how regularly and where the handle goes that'll determine the rest in his future. But you see on plays like these, the way that he's able to dart in the lane and then hang in the air and absorb contact on these finishes is pretty ridiculous.
Like in America, I would have paid a lot of money to see him play like in the Pac-12.
Now it is Edgecombe. Edgecombe drives, tries to get it off the glass.
I've also liked how he's attacked shifting defenses, and specifically the way that he's caught it on the move and made himself a threat by meeting the ball, and also used the split stance well to attack. Both could kind of be referred to as stampede action depending on where it's happening, and he's also shined in his opportunities on off-ball screens. So as an overall off-ball scoring threat, he's got a lot of the pieces that you like to see. The way that he's attacked quickly and created blow-bys on limited dribbles is a positive as a complementary piece, and if the shot is working like it has been, he should be an immediate positive in this offense, even if it takes him a handful of games to find his spots and when he can be aggressive.
And they have been sharp to start this game. This is a mature group. Something like that's not going to do.
Now he did have a few issues converting at the rim, and Synergy backed up my suspicions on that, but I'm not too concerned. He'll need to keep working on his left hand, and there are times he can get a bit out of control and probably needs to add a bit more decel 5 feet and in, but as we've shown, someone with his athletic gifts and workable touch, it's hard to take those numbers fully at face value. So we'll put a pin in it and see what direction it goes in this year and what the root of him struggling is, if that happens to be the case. Now, in addition to the slashing upside, he's also a solid mover off the ball, finding spaces in the defense as a cutter, and of course has the ability to turn that daylight into a viral highlight at any moment. And when he does operate in the middle of zones and occasionally in the dunker spot, he's quick off the ground in a way that makes it much easier to finish than other players his size. One of my favorite parts of his game is actually his offensive rebounding. He has a nose for the ball and a feel for where the ball is headed off the miss, and you can see the functionality of that athleticism with the tip-ins and the putbacks and extra possessions he gains here. Sure, you're not necessarily asking guards and smaller wings to do this for your team all the time, but I'd be kind of surprised if this didn't stay something that stands out for him, even if it is just in moments in the future.
Hill ima tricu na dlanu, ali prekratak skok. Edgecombe još jedan kill s iste pozicije. Sada.
To je Hill tam, ponovno za tricu, nema je. Ima skoka u napadu.
Now, the biggest question in VJ's game is just how much he's capable of as a creator and what that means for the type of role that he could play in the future. It's vital for the ceiling of most. Even if you're an off-ball guy, you've got to be able to make a play and be a threat, but it's especially important for someone who is going to measure in somewhere between 6'3" and 6'5", as there's an even bigger emphasis on those players to stand out as some level of creator, because if you're not able to do that, you got to be a knockdown shooter, one, or luck out in a situation that lets you be that utility or gadget guard like a GP2, early Bruce Brown, or Terrence Mann. Those type of guys are always flawed enough to get played off the floor, though their defense is usually the reason that they're out there in the first place. So for him, it comes back to the handle. Can he add enough ball security and comfort to counter more naturally when cut off? Can he navigate help and have the confidence to be trusted with the ball for longer possessions? That's stuff that hasn't consistently been there to this point, even though he's gotten better and has shown that he can handle some stuff here. And I'm definitely not saying he can't dribble at all or anything, but it'll be something that's watched pretty closely. Now, this play ended up being a questionable charge call, but you see the type of quick twitch and first step he possesses if he's able to tighten the handle to where it looks like this more often. Maybe there's a floater, a 12-foot jumper that's more of an open look in this situation, but the long-term vision of who he could be with the ball in his hands is alive and well on a play like this for sure. Now, he's also been a mostly non-factor as a pull-up shooter, both in percentages and, more importantly, volume and comfort. And that's another big element that'll dictate just how good of an offensive player he can be, especially as teams game plan for his ability to attack the bucket.
Sponge just absorbing everything. Edgecombe, the pull-up three.
Now, he has had his share of moments that are exactly what you want to see. These late clock moments against Columbus and with the Bahamas are two of the best looks into what the possibilities could be, and a couple more here in the pick and roll show what else I'm talking about. So I'm interested to see the type of progress he's made and if he has the range to do it from three and against contests, because that would be significant progress. And I also want to be clear, he and the others we talk about in this don't have to answer some or all of these questions fully this season either. Some players, especially one who he reminds me of a ton of in Victor Oladipo, didn't have it all even after 3 years of college, but at least some level of improvement and flashes will be wanted if we're talking top 3, top 5-ish for a guard. And finishing it off, I've also been pretty intrigued by VJ's passing and his overall feel as a decision maker. He's already been a good connective piece. He's unselfish by nature. He can make the simple extra pass. He's got several overhead skips in there, and he does a good job of pushing the ball in transition and finding teammates ahead of him. He also has moments parlaying that downhill ability into open opportunities for his teammates as he draws the defense. He can make a basic read in the pick and roll, and has had flashes of solid processing off the live dribble, driving baseline, or off those ball screens. Now, his timing and precision on his passing can still improve, and he doesn't quite have full command with the ball in his hands, as we mentioned, so this will grow as his threat as a scorer and ball handler does. But overall, it's a spot that I think people who are unfamiliar with his game will be pleasantly surprised by, and it's a big part of the reason I think he's going to shine in his role at Baylor and eventually find one in the league.
Prešao granicu 20 koševa, Bahami vrlo blizu, 40 koševa.
Need some help on this one. Edgecombe finds Maluk.
To sum it up, VJ fits nearly everything Baylor likes to do, and I think he's as good a fit as any potential one-and-done prospect that they've ever had. So for that reason alone, he should shine and hopefully benefit from the program from a developmental perspective. NBA wise, I think he has top 5 upside for all the things that we talked about. Hopefully he's able to show some progression as a creator and in his offensive skill set, but I think he has enough there in his defense, athleticism, motor, and off-ball equity to stay in lottery conversations at the least. Now, I'm only loosely tied to things in the preseason as usual, but that's how I feel at the moment. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and leave a comment down below of what you think of VJ's game, where you think he'll end up in the draft. And we got a mock draft coming soon to hold us over before we get into the preseason preview and board, probably about a month from now. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this one. As always, I'm Keandre. This is HoopIntellect. Until next time, I'm out.